What's up, and welcome back. I'm John Starr from MikeTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're talking about Heart Eyes. That kind of review that I wish I could go specially order glasses just for the review so that I could have Heart Eyes glasses, but I'm just got my regular black sunglasses on. Anyway, what is Heart Eyes? Sometimes I really do just watch a movie and I have absolutely no idea what I'm about to watch. Uh, Other than the fact that I was aware that Hard Eyes was one of the major releases from earlier in the year that I hadn't seen, and I finally got around to watching it with audio description. Really had no idea. I didn't even know the genre of the movie or who was in it. I just saw some people talking about it. I was like, oh, well, Hard Eyes, I guess I got to put that on my list. Well, I did. It's a horror movie, by the way. Doesn't necessarily sound like it would be. I mean, it could be, but it could be a lot of things. So, just in case you do not know and are encroaching on that, I like to walk into everything without knowing territory. I feel like we should always know genre. Not it didn't really change anything, but it's a horror movie. It stars Mason Gooding and Olivia Holt, who play our leads that are going to get stalked by a killer named the Hard Eyes Killer. So the premise in this is that every Valentine's Day, there's been this killer that I guess no one can ever stop, and this lives in like an alternate reality where around Valentine's Day, just in the news, they're like, the Hard Eyes Killer strikes every Valentine's Day. Where is it going to strike? It strikes in a new city every year. So, I think that's part of the problem. By the time you get to the end of the movie, it's played mostly like a dark comedy. It's a horror comedy, but its gore is still cruel and excessive. It has sometimes horror comedies. The gore it's still there, but it's not necessarily as brutal. Like the kills here are still very brutal, perhaps more so because they think they can hide behind the humorous intention of many of the scenes. So they're very over the top and very gory. But at the same time, it has jokes about things and about love and about Valentine's Day. The main girl, Olivia Holt's character, whose name I forgot because I literally cannot. I know his is Jay. She's, I don't know, Amy or something. I don't know that it really matters. She has a best friend who I have to applaud the movie for avoiding tropes of making it like a friend group, and then the friend group gets whittled down slowly one by one as you like realize like who in the friend group is the killer. It doesn't do that at all. It really just kind of focuses on the leads. So the best friend, her best friend just kind of gets a pass. I know it's kind of a spoiler, but it really just, she's not in the movie that much. She's introduced and you're like, oh, this is the best friend character that's probably going to die at some point. Oh no, she's really just not in the movie that much. I mean, she comes back around, like they touch on her. She has like a later scene where she has this phone call and she's trying to empower Olivia to go and chase after her man. And she lists her speech creatively uses about 30 different romantic comedy titles, sometimes blending them into the next one. So it's that's the kind of humor that they think is funny. I can't remember all the ones that were in there, but Crazy Stupid Love, Notting Hill, Some Kind of Wonderful. Yeah, there are a bunch of different romantic comedies that they just kind of threw in that speech, and she just blends from saying the title of one rom-com into another title of another rom-com. So that's sort of the style of humor. It's very uh, like a send up of rom-coms and sometimes, but it doesn't maintain that. Um, the rest of the time it's focused on this Hard Eyes killer who's just actually kind of brutal and just doesn't really have a whole lot of consistency in anything. They admit that even though Hard Eyes is like there to stalk couples in love, that he also just kills whoever's in his way. Quite literally, there's one scene where Hard Eyes is just kind of chasing uh, the two leads, and it just stops and kills somebody, just some rando who's just standing there. It's just there's a character that's just like the audio description was like there's a guy that's just standing there watching because some of the people are fascinated by Hard Eyes, so they just kind of stand there and watch and they think smile like, oh my god, it's Hard Eyes, you know, because I don't know, people in this reality are dumb. Yeah, he just gets stabbed and then Hard Eyes moves on. He's like, oh, this guy, he's not connected to the story at all, just whatever, all right. And that's kind of like what happens. It's not even like the people who are tangentially connected to, like um, people around them at any given situation. They may, I don't know if they jump into a taxi cab or something and the taxi cab driver is at risk. Um, so, no, just random people. Uh, The funny thing about it, though, the what's supposed to break the mold is that these two actually aren't dating. So Hard Eyes is just fundamentally stupid and just never picks up on that. So it's a business meeting, and it happens to be on Valentine's Day. Like Jay's not from that town, and Olivia works for Michaela Watkins's character's thing. She's not in the movie that much. So if you came here for Michaela Watkins, you will be sorely disappointed if you're like, oh my god, she was on Saturday Night Live, but she's in the movie for a hot second. It's weird because IMDb has her at like fourth billing. I'm like, that's a stretch uh, of a lot. Um, so Olivia ends up going to this meeting with Mason, and they're out, eating or whatever, and Hard Eyes sees them and I guess decides to make them the target. Although there's some stuff that's questionable about why they're targets. I'm trying to avoid major spoilers, but I'm trying to give you the vibe of the movie at the same time. So, like, Hard Eyes is like watching them. So, is it good? It can be. It's a film that really wants to be good. It really wants to be one of these next sort of horror comedies that comes up and people talk about it and they go, oh my god, well, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna watch this along with Cabin in the Woods or The Blackening or Cooties or Tucker and Dale versus Evil, or Shaun of the Dead. Just pick one. I don't make me keep the Final Girls. It just wants to be listed in sort of that same realm. But the kills are really brutal. The kills range pretty high for horror movie buffs. So I think if you're here for gore, you'll get yours. And audio description did a pretty solid job of describing it. So you're not going to miss out, even though Hard Eyes focuses pretty much on two characters who are destined to sort of live to the end so that you can kind of figure out whether or not they're going to make it as a couple or not. There are plenty of people who die along the way who are just randos. So, and there's an opening kill, and the opening kill is, has a brutal kill in it. The opening kill sequence, not every death was brutal, but there's one that was just a very creative use of a set piece. Yeah, so Hard Eyes. Audio description, fantastic audio description. One of my favorite audio descriptions I've seen this year so far. It did a great job of tracking the killer and where it was and the set and the scenery. There aren't that many characters to describe. I'm pretty much just following two of them the whole movie. And Hard Eyes Killer. There are a couple side characters who have maybe a few scenes together. The reveal behind who the killer is interesting enough. We're going to talk about it though. I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to say spoilers, and then you can stay for spoilers if you want. So Hard Eyes, yeah, I'm mostly positive on it. It just doesn't, it's not going to, there are some of those movies that I listed that are like my favorite horror comedies. I love rewatching them over and over. This is not in that territory. I felt like it didn't quite, sometimes when you get in those horror comedies, sometimes the kills are funny. I didn't really think any of these were funny. I think all the kills were just kind of brutal or annoying. Like there wasn't really one where you just go, oh yeah, or there's a character that you've disliked the whole movie and they finally get their comeuppance, which tends to happen in horror movies. I'm thinking about like Chris Hemsworth in Cabin in the Woods. You know? Like, that's funny. It's objectively funny. It's not that gory. It's objectively funny. So, it's... and it's important to the story. So, Hard Eyes needed more to that. It needed to balance its tone. It needed... it's struggling to figure out what it wants to be. If it wants to be an absolute a brutal horror movie or a horror comedy, and it kind of has a little bit of an identity crisis. So I'm gonna give it a B minus. If I think it's worth watching, but I don't know that it's gonna be a classic. So thanks for watching. Click like and subscribe. And the spoilers are, so with Hard Eyes, one of the reasons why I'm also a little bit low on it is because I don't think the killer works. So they established the fact that Hard Eyes jumps around from city to city. It was either, I know the previous 2 years were Philadelphia and Boston. I can't remember which order it was in. It's either last year was Boston, before that it was Philadelphia, or vice versa. And now they're in Seattle. And so Hard Eyes ends up being 3 people, a throuple. So 3 people have to move across country every year and retain jobs. And do you know what I'm saying? Like they're not, at least 2 of them are established characters within the film, and one of them is not. So at least 2 of them we know got jobs. And they get the kind of jobs too that are really hard to kind of fake. So the killers are this one random guy who's the first time that they kill Hard Eyes. They're like, who is that? I don't know. We don't know. We've never been introduced to him. He's just some rando. And you think, oh, well, they killed the Hard Eyes killer. And then later on, you find out that it's this guy, David, who you see for like a minute when he hits on Olivia Holt's character. And he's the IT guy who's at the police station. And he's his significant other. I think they did get married. It's a wife. His wife is Detective Hobbs. So the cop that's controlling, or Detective Shaw, sorry, they made a Hobbs and Shaw joke. And so Shaw is the killer. But is she taking vacation every Valentine's Day to go around? Because it's hard to get on a police force and move every single year, you know? Like, especially to establish the kind of partnership with Hobbs, her partner. So she just happened to stumble into that in Seattle. I know these are things we're not supposed to think about, because when they write a comedy like this, they don't want you to think about things like this. They're like, oh, don't overthink it. But I do kind of overthink it, because this is what you've written. So I think it's clever, it, except for the fact that you also have them hopping from city to city for however long this thing has been going on, at least the last 2 years. Although when you see it reported in the news, you think Hard Eyes was going on for a while. And, they talk about how they met on the message board, and then eventually the third guy, who we didn't really know, ended up getting added as like a throuple. He was like a super fan or something, and they let him join. Um, so that's how they get away with it, and that's how it seems like somebody's in a different. It's kind of cool because it seems like that's how it seems like you keep running, and you're like, well, how is Hard Eyes over here? It's like, well, because there are multiple Hard Eyes killers, and it's basically what Scream does for their multiple killers in Scream. So it makes one person look like they're not the killer because it couldn't possibly be, because there's another Hard Eyes killer that's chasing. So it alleviates somebody of guilt when you're trying to figure out who the killer is, especially when you have three, because it's a bit much. But I don't know. I kind of felt like they had an interesting angle into the killer situation, but then when you start overthinking wait a minute, so Shaw had to go through training as a police officer, and she got hired, but has she always worked for Seattle? And did she get Valentine's Day week off? And then she flew to Boston and Philadelphia the past 2 years and hung out for a week? Or was she a cop in one of those cities first, and then she moved? It's hard to fake training to be a cop. It's hard to fake that resume to get in the job to be a police officer, and then to also get your husband hired as an IT guy in the same station. Like, it's the kind of permanence that sort of begs the question of, what did you guys do the previous years? They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to let you know, because they didn't want to overthink it, because they realize that if they tell you, it'll make the movie inherently more stupid. So they don't actually tell you that. They just kind of reveal, and they're like, well, I hope the killer reveal was shocking enough. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you can make the killer shocking. You could just suddenly reveal a character we didn't even know was in the movie. So you can be like, oh, the killer is Mark Hamill? Why are you killing people, Mark Hamill? I don't know. I mean, it's shocking, you know? But it doesn't make any sense. So it kind of lost me a little bit, because even though like the killer reveal is clever, it's not as clever as it thinks it is or wants to be, because it can't explain itself, nor does it choose to. Instead, it explains how they met, but it doesn't explain how they've been doing it for the past 2 years. Like, how did they go to Boston? How did they go to Philadelphia? Do they move? Are they new to Seattle? Do they move every year? Do they live in Seattle and then they fly out, and now they finally have decided to kill in their own city? What is the deal? So that factored into the B minus, as far as my that's all right, sort of acceptance of the film. It's kind of funny. It's very gory. So that's that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.